We're also doing well. A day, about 1 day ago, according to Facebook, I saw this on your page. Transformer upgrade and replacement program commences today. Residents in Adenta, La, Teshi, Nungwa, Majo, Bachuna, Lashibi, and surrounding communities may experience temporary power interruptions as the Electricity Company of Ghana carries out critical transformer upgrade works in these areas. These upgrades are essential to improve electricity supply, reduce outages, and ensure more reliable service in the long term. This seems very important to you at the ministry. Why?
Let me say thank you for the opportunity. When we took over in 2025, the energy sector was in a very bad state. I'll concentrate on power because the discussion is largely on electricity. And so we had to take a comprehensive review of the entire supply chain. At the time, the generation capacity deficit was over 700 megawatts. And that has been resolved. If you look at what has happened in the last 12 months, we moved away from shedding 700 megawatts to 0 megawatts in about 13 months. And so for the generation, we are doing quite well. The only challenge there is that we don't have enough reserve margins, and that as a government has been taken up. So the number of projects that will be rolled out in the next couple of months or years to be able to address that. Our transmission is quite robust, and we have a number of challenges when it comes to water and regions, because there's never been a dedicated transmission line. That is something that the government is also addressing with the construction of the Eastern Corridor line. And now you come to the distribution. The distribution side will be the interface with ECG and NETCO. In the last couple of weeks or months, the Minister, Honorable Dr. John Chinapo, took notice of complaints from some areas or some residents that they have been experiencing outages. And so he commissioned some work to be done. ECG did a comprehensive work, looked at the entire supply chain in their distribution system. And then one major issue that came up had to do with transformers. So we have areas where they have obsolete transformers. If they're obsolete, those transformers don't work. You have areas where their transformers overload. If you say overload, what it basically means is that the capacity of those transformers is not enough to be able to serve the areas. If we take an area, for example, let's say Oyarifa. Traditionally, Oyarifa is a rural area. Today, Oyarifa has really developed. If you go and see the kind of housing there, what it means is that the capacity has gone up. But we are still using the same old transformers that were installed. If you look at an area like Chado typically was also a waterlogged area. After the construction of the Bahama Road to be Chado to become a first-class area, people have moved from regular bungalows to duplexes and mansions. They are using the houses that they're installing numerous electricity or gadgets. And so it became clear that we needed to replace the number of transformers. The figure that is to be provided for Accra and Kumasi will be about 1,500 transformers. And so the ministry, together with the Ministry of Finance, is providing the requisite resources for ECG to be able to do that. So ECG has started that program yesterday. And so in the next couple of months, what we'll be doing is that we'll be replacing transformers that are obsolete and also be upgrading transformers that have low capacity to ensure that you have consistent power supply.
You're saying, is that for only the two big cities, Accra and Kumasi?
No, so the exercise that was done was the whole Ghana. But what we are working on immediately will be the two large cities. But largely that's where the complaints have come from. The complaints have come from some portions of or some parts of Accra and Kumasi. And so, if you remember, about a month ago, the residents of Achimota were complaining part of Tantra Hill, part of Tisano. But after we did the upgrade there, those complaints have stopped. And so, they are concentrating on areas that have those issues. Those are what we term as emergency. So that as soon as possible, those transformers will be replaced. And important that I noted that once you're doing these exercises, it will be necessary that sometimes there will be power interruptions because there's no way you can install a transformer with live power or electricity still running. So you may have to turn it down. So if you look at the publication that BCG put out, they're giving the schedule for the 6 areas that we're starting with in Greater Accra. And then those areas, provided a rotating schedule. So you put out the lights for a couple of hours to ensure that the work is done, and then it will be restored. And so I'll use the opportunity to plead with the good people of Sudan, especially those in Accra that these works are ongoing, that they should bear with government, bear with the ministry. We're doing this in good faith, and that once that is done, those power cuts have been experiencing because of transformer overloads will be a thing of the past.
How long do you anticipate this exercise will take?
The first one, we are doing it in phases. So what we published, we're expecting to complete that on the 17th. The work started on the 8th. So for those areas where you rightly mentioned, those areas, that's Denta, Teshinuwa, Machono, Shibi, Major, and then part of the Nungwa areas, which will be completed later, 17th of this month. And then we'll announce the next phase that we are going to do, where we are looking at completing the entire country the next couple of months.
Interesting. One of the things, and let me borrow from Reverend Abraham Lamte, famously told me that we solved yesterday's problem today. The transformers you are installing, are they transformers that will solve yesterday's problem today, or they are transformers that are also thinking about the population in those areas growing further? How are you considering which transformers to procure and which one you're using to replace the old
transformers will solve yesterday's problem, today's problem, and future problem. And so we are looking at installing transformers with huge capacity. But the thing with this sector is that you will keep upgrading or expanding because the areas grow, people grow, people expand, people buy new gadgets. If you are familiar with airport residential area was largely bungalows, a first-class area, upper class. Today, if you go to airport residential, you see apartments, the construction of huge apartments. If you check the stretch from association all the way to Kaukudi, that's Gold House. On that stretch alone, you will see about 6 new apartments coming up. Once that happens, what it means is that you may have provided transformers with capacity that will save the area for the next 5 years. But these major developments would mean that you will have to now bring in transformers with much more capacity. And so that's what we are doing. The transformers we are introducing are of high capacity that should cover the areas. But once development is ongoing, we'll have to plan accordingly. The reality is that we are where we are today because of underinvestment in the last 8 years. The last 8 years, when it comes to maintenance, the previous administration focused on the wrong areas. For example, you have over 2,600 containers with 0 transformer. How can you have over 2,600 containers, but you don't have a critical material like transformer, not even one in there, because it was misplaced priority. But what we've done as government is you've aligned the procurement of it. The Honorable Minister, the first thing Honorable General did was to direct CCG to suspend their procurement and then only procure material things. And so we've moved away from an expenditure of 8 billion on unnecessary things in 2024 to about 1.5 billion in 2025 by purchasing critical things. And so those are some of the reforms. But as we move on, it will be important that we plan ahead and then we'll provide the requisite investment needed for ECG to always be afloat.
And let me conclude by asking a question on another issue. Because over the past 2 weeks, 2, 3, 4 weeks, there's been major concern about one of the things you seem to have worked on effectively with the management of the economy: fuel prices. Because of the war on Iran, we're seeing fuel prices go up, and there have been calls on you to intervene in some form or the other to at least relieve the average Ghanaian. Now that there's a ceasefire in place, we're seeing fuel price fall slightly. Is that to say that perhaps you'll be much cautious in intervening? What does that change?
The first thing that His Excellency the President did was that the ministers for energy and finance should monitor the situation and advise government. And so over the period, the ministry has held several meetings with stakeholders, including the downstream regulator, NPA, and then Seaboard, COMAC, and then industry players to look at the dynamics happening on the global market. And it's one thing that as a country we've done well is when it's supply. In fact, if you monitored some countries, even the supply of petroleum products have become a problem. But we don't have any shortages. Go to the pumps today, they have adequate fuels to purchase. As we speak, we have about 8 weeks of diesel, and we have about 7 weeks when it comes to petrol. And so it's one thing that we've done well as a country. In Kenya and other areas, we've even had regulators and ministers either fired, suspended, or prosecuted for that. And so it comes with the prudent planning that the honorable minister and the stakeholders have done. The other part has to do with pricing. Today there's a cabinet meeting to discuss the petroleum sector and then what the government seeks to do. To me, there are calls on intervening by abolishing the 1 cedi. The minority says that the use of the 1 cedi is not relevant anymore, but that's not accurate. The reason for the introduction of the 1 cedi was to purchase liquid fuels to power thermal plants. Are we still purchasing liquid fuels? Absolutely, we are doing that. Was the 1 cedi going to take care of it 100%? No, the 1 cedi is only taking care of a part or a portion of the cost involved. And so if you ask that we should just spend that 1 cedi, what it means is that something must give. You would have to look for alternative resources to procure liquid fuels. And what we've learned in this sector is that there are no shortcuts. If you take a short decision today, will come back to bite you. In 2020, during COVID, we were given a lot of freebies. But in 2022, the economy of Ghana collapsed because of the resources that we lack to take care of these freebies. And so the government is taking a very cautious decision, critical decision to look at all angles, to take the decision that will be best for the people of Ghana and best for our economy. So be rest assured that with the situation still being monitored, some decisions will be made at cabinet today. And after that, I'm sure that the people of Ghana will be briefed.
Thank you. Thank you, Richmond.
Thank you very much.
Richmond Rockson, spokesperson for the Ministry of Energy, join us on the line, taking us to Zalif. We are 4 minutes past 10. DJ Kofi is up next with the mid-morning show. Don't forget, don't miss Pampas. So Pampas is on at 1 p.m. Before Pampas, so 30 minutes past 11